子祥访谈录 Real People, Real Story.
But she said nobody at school knew that when I went home at night, I went home to another culture.
And here we have some, I know some Chinese American families. Both parents are like first generation immigrants, and their kids goes to, American public schools. So they're absorbing this American values, but in the home they are absorbing the Chinese values that their parents try to instill in them. So there might be some conflict between the two value systems. The parents really want to raise their kids the Chinese way. They want them to be Chinese. But the kids goes outside. They are absorbing all the outside cultures, values, and they want to be American. Do you have any suggestions or advice for those?
Well, I think first I want to say it's hard because I have some friends who are TCKs of Asia, and they have a podcast. One of their podcasts is about being a stranger in my own family.
A stranger in my own family?
Right, because many of them had gone to, well, their parents were globally mobile. Some had come to the States when the parents had a career here. And they didn't even know English when they started the school, but they learned it and all the rest of it. But like you say, they learned the other values. Or they went to an international school, which was Western-based.
Right.
And so that is teaching them you ask questions and you think and you wonder and you all these things. And my friend Nautanu told me, she said, you think you're very global because you've been every place, whatever. But she said, when I was at the school, I had to be Western to fit in. And she said, I developed an internalized racism. I wished that I had blonde hair and blue eyes so I could fit in with everybody.
Right.
But she said, nobody at school knew that when I went home at night, I went home to another culture. We had a different language. The minute I stepped over the door, then I became, her mother's Japanese, her dad's Indonesian, but I became Asian. And if I acted at home like I did at school and asked questions and all that, then my parents would punish me because I wasn't being respectful.
Right.
And also she says, she talks about learning English because of being in the international school. And she said, I'm sorry to say it started to make me feel superior to my parents because they didn't know English.
Feel superior?
Yes.
Because I can do it, you cannot.
Yes, and she said because English is a valued language. And so I started to look down on my parents because they couldn't speak English. And of course she's changed now, I mean she's learned that. But as a child, she said it was like I had power over my parents because in that
maybe their parents relied on this child to do some daily things in this country.
That's right. And so that's another problem is when parents go, particularly I've seen some refugee families here in Indiana.
Right.
And the children are at school, they do learn English, but the parents still don't know it because the mom is at home taking care of the kids and all that. And so instead of the parent teaching the child in a way is parenting the parent, And so, of course, the parents can parent in other ways. And I want to say that I think as children grow up, they do come to appreciate what the parents have been. But there's this time in between, like you say, they want to fit in. That's part of development. You want your peers to love you. You want to be like the other kids. And so it's a hard time. But I think parents can be patient. And they also, one thing that is important is to try and keep your original language, because sometimes the kids will fight that because they don't want to bother learning another language. They don't want to bother learning Chinese because they maybe the other kids at their school, especially if it's a public school, don't have to take language lessons. They don't have to take extra lessons. But it's really important. And the parents who don't do that, when the kids are 30, say, why did you make me? Because now I can't talk to grandma, I can't talk to my cousins. But the parents who really work with them, and maybe in good schools, some of the schools can help encourage that, So anyway, I think it's important when we're raising children between cultures that you keep the languages, because that's also a skill set. That's one of the benefits when a child wants to get a job later. Mm-hmm. If they can put on their paper, I speak English and I speak Chinese,
right,
they're going to go right to the top.
Right to the top.
Right to the top
wow.
of the list. I was in one conference and a lady who was from a company in PR, or public relations or employee, whatever she said. She said, when we have an application for a job and that person only speaks one language, mm-hmm. I won't even look at it.
Really?
That's what she said. She said because we're an international company, mm-hmm. we're global, we have to have people who can speak more than one language.
Right. As we grew up around the world, many people are wondering that, they're asking themselves questions, where do I come from? Where do I belong? Some people think that, I feel like I belong everywhere, but then I feel like I belong nowhere at all. Mm-hmm.